So I am a Black Ivy League student, and I have a ton of thoughts about this affirmative action decision. But first, before we get into the video, welcome to Sydney's Safe Space. I talk about entertainment, politics, culture, sports, you name it. I talk about it. I also have a podcast that I host on YouTube and on Spotify, so please check that out when you guys have the chance. And yeah, let's get straight into it. So typically when I make commentary videos, I have a set of notes, right, that I reference throughout the video. And I considered doing so for this one, but I felt like I needed a place where I could fully express myself, because I post short form content on Instagram and TikTok, and I was actually blessed enough to be reposted by Revolt TV when I talked about this particular matter. And I got so many comments, so many hate comments about how Black people were just, inferior, or I don't believe Black people can keep up without affirmative action, this, that, and the third. There was just so much gaslighting. That's the only word. I hate saying that things are gaslighting when they're not, but that's what the response was. It was gaslighting. It was trying to make me believe that I don't think Black students are good enough to get into reputable, prestigious universities, which is not the case. I am at a reputable, prestigious university. I go to Brown University, and my shirt says Duke, but I go to Brown University. So I am very aware of the intellectual capacities of the peers around me. I know Black students deserve to be in these spaces because I see us do well in these spaces. And I know that a lot of my white peers at these universities are legacy students. I know this. And like I said, this is not an organized video, so I'm probably going to be jumping all over the place. But I was also a member of the women's basketball team during my time at Brown for 3 seasons. And the first year I was there, one of the members of the athletic department, she was like the only Black person who worked in the athletic department. She started up this group called Multicultural Athletes, whatever. And so like every Wednesday we would meet and we would just talk about stuff, whatever, just just a place for minority athletes to just air their grievances out about the university, about things that we were forced to go through, about what we've observed, all of that stuff, right? It was supposed to be a safe space. And I remember vividly she talked about legacy students, right? Because we were having this conversation about, imposter syndrome and feeling like we didn't belong and feeling like other people didn't think we belonged, right? As athletes and as Black students, right? And she said, whenever a legacy student applies, right? Whether they had a cousin who went to Brown, or they had a parent, or they had a sibling or a grandparent, on their application, there's going to be something there. Like if it's their parent, it's going to say P. If it's their sibling, it's going to say S. If it's their cousin, it's going to say C. If it's their grandparent, it's going to say G, right? There are indicators that the person who is applying is a legacy student. And that indicator gives that applicant more legitimacy than any other applicant, right? I don't think a lot of people are aware of this, but 30% of the Ivy League are legacy students, right? And learning that information, it made me really think about what is a meritocracy, right? What does it mean to get into a Brown University, a Harvard, and MIT on merit? There's no such thing. That's what I learned that day, right? When she was telling us, oh, they're looking down on you because you're an athlete. Well, their mom went to school here. So who really belongs, right? When I made these posts and I got all these comments about, it's about merit. You're going to get into the university on merit. I'm like, y'all don't know what a meritocracy is, because meritocracies don't exist. Meritocracies don't exist because a meritocracy and nepotism cannot go hand in hand. And this other talking point that I kept hearing over and over and over and over again, right? This idea that Asian students will benefit from affirmative action not existing or being legal is crazy to me. It's crazy that they genuinely believe, because they are the model minority, that somehow their chances of getting into Harvard are going to be easier now that Harvard is not making race conscious decisions. Here's what I want to make clear. Asian people benefit from affirmative action, just like black people do. That's a fact. Scream at me, hate at me, throw tomatoes at your phone screen for me saying that, for me expressing that, because I know how much it will damage the narrative that's just being pushed out there that affirmative action is hurting Asian students. Affirmative action is not hurting you, it is helping you. Affirmative action is why you got considered in the first place. They're upset at affirmative action, but they need to be upset at legacy admissions, right? That's where their ire should have been focused, because the students who get in on affirmative action are deserving students. They are students that meet the criteria that the university has set, right? They got the grades, they have the scores, right? They have the extracurriculars, they have the accomplishments and the accolades. They have all of these things. They are well-rounded individuals who belong at those universities, who would not otherwise have the opportunity to attend those universities because of the implicit bias that is present in the admission systems of these universities. That's the reason why affirmative action exists. It's to give opportunities to minorities, right? So when it's Asian people who decide, and you know what? Here's what I'll say. Because I don't want to come off a certain way, right? I don't want to come off a certain way. There's this concept called model minority. I don't know if it's in like the general lexicon or social lexicon, but essentially what it means is that Asian people are typically placed on this pedestal, right? And it's used against generally black people. It's used against black people to show that, like, hey, you can be successful in America if you just weren't a criminal. You can be successful in America if you open a business. You can be successful in America if you do what the Asians do, right? And so having this label of the model minority, having this stereotype of the model minority has basically turned a specific subset of Asian people into slaves, because they are now being used as pawns in this game to hurt black people. They're being used as pawns, right? In this game to advance white rich people, right? They're being used in this game and they don't even realize it. And it is their hatred for black people, and it's their innate feeling of superiority that comes from being associated with this identity of being the model minority that allows that to happen. And I feel bad for the kids who do so much to get in, right? I feel bad for the Asian student who works their ass off, who gets a 4.5 and has a perfect SAT score and does extracurriculars and doesn't get into any of the schools they want to get into. I feel bad for those people genuinely, but the 4% of black people at Harvard are not the people who took your spot, right? It is the legacy students who got a 3.7 or a 3.6 and a 1300, right? And didn't really do anything outside of school. Maybe they played lacrosse. It is those people that you need to be upset about. It is that system that you should desire to dismantle. And there's so much to be upset about. And given that I've been, just like ransacked with like hate and these really, really negative messages online, it's tough. It's tough to really even begin to express just like the disappointment and the general pessimism that I feel. And when I see what people are thinking about this, when I see how people are digesting this, and I see how there's some people who are really happy, they're genuinely happy that affirmative action doesn't exist. I do so much to take care of myself and to I truly believe that self-care is a form of resistance. So I do a lot to take care of myself internally, externally, all of that. And yet there's still this part of like American culture that despises me, and I despise it right back. And I can't help it. It just dissipates some of my energy and some of my genuine happiness. And I feel really, really bad for all of the Black students and all the minority students who are going to suffer because of this. And yeah, that's really these are my thoughts on it. This is not a very organized video, so I apologize for that. This was a bit of a rant, but this is just what's going through my mind. This is just what I'm feeling. This is just like, yeah, this is everything. So yeah, that's thoughts about affirmative action from a Black Ivy League student for you. Thank you for watching if you made it this far.